Students, in lesson 7.4, we are going to work on multiplying fractions by fractions. Our essential question that will guide our learning is, how can you use an area model to show the product of two fractions? So we're going to do an investigation. And for this investigation, we're going to need color pencils. But remember, we can always draw this out in class, or we can also do shading of pencils and different colored charcoals. So Jane is making reusable grocery bags and lunch bags. She needs 3/4 yard of material to make a grocery bag. A lunch bag needs 2/3 of the amount of material a grocery bag needs. So clearly, a lunch bag needs less. How much material does she need to make a lunch bag? So what we're going to do is we're going to find 2/3 of 3/4. So step A, you're going to fold a sheet of paper vertically into 4 equal parts, using the vertical folds as a guide. So boys and girls, as you take a piece of paper, just a regular piece of paper, we're going to shade it vertically into 4 equally sized sections. So we're going to get 4 sections. Then shade 3/4 yellow. So we're going to shade 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. And I really, actually, boys and girls, I want you to do this with me. I want you to shade in your actual piece of paper that you're folding on the side. You can rip it out from your notebook too, that's okay. Next, it says, fold the paper horizontally into 3 equal parts, using the horizontal folds as guide. So, this time we did vertical, and the vertical was up and down, and now for this one, we're going to do horizontal folds. So when we do our horizontal folds, we're going to make them into 3 equally sized sections. So we're going to go 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. So remember, we shaded those, and now it says shade 2/3 of the yellow section blue. Now, boys and girls, we are going to shade 2/3 of the yellow sections blue. So this would be 1/3, 2/3. So we can see that there's an overlap in our sections. Now it says count the number of rectangles into which the whole paper is folded. We'd say that there's 12 because we can count them out. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3 is equal to 12. So we know that there are 12 rectangles formed on the whole paper. It says, what fraction of the whole sheet of paper does one rectangle represent? So we can see that if we're going to only represent one rectangle, boys and girls, that would be 1/12, 1 out of the 12. Because remember, 12/12 would give us the whole rectangle. Now it says, count the sections that are shaded twice and record the answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here in purple and I'm going to color the sections that are shaded twice. So that would be 1/12, 2/12, 3/12, 4/12, 5/12, 6/12. So boys and girls, there are 6 out of the 12 circles that are shaded both colors. But we know that 6/12 is not in simplest form because the greatest common factor of 6/12 is 6, so that means that we can simplify it to being 1/2. So if we were to write down our in simplest form, we would say that 1/2 yards of material were used to make the lunch bags. And remember, boys and girls, in these particular examples, our answer was shaded vertically and horizontally the same color, and that's where I colored in the purple just so we can kind of see the overlap. It'll be much easier to see on your actual sheets when you're doing it at home. Now we're on draw conclusions. First it says, explain why you shaded 2/3 of the yellow sections blue rather than shading 2/3 of the whole. So what we would say, boys and girls, is since I'm finding 2/3 of 3/4 and not 2/3 of 1, I only needed to shade 2/3 of the yellow sections. So we're not considering it from the whole, And if you go back here, boys and girls, we wasn't considering it of this whole piece. We were just saying of these yellow pieces, shade 2/3 of them. So that's why we only shaded those 6 squares out of the 12 squares. Next, it says analyze what are you finding if a model shows half of a sheet of paper shaded yellow and 1/3 of the yellow section being shaded blue. So for that particular example, we would be finding 1/3 of a half, or 1/3 times a half, which is equal to a 6. And notice, boys and girls, our product, 1/6, is less than our individual factors. A half is the biggest piece, third is a little bit smaller than a half, and a 6 is much smaller than the other previous 2 pieces. Boys and girls, I'm going to really recommend that you make sure that you draw out your example and you actually color it in with a shaded piece of paper, because it's going to help you a lot. And we're going to actually do this again in class tomorrow, so make sure that you bring your color pencils with you. Next, it says make connections. So you can find part of a part in different ways. Margot and James both correctly solved the problem 1/3 times 3/4 using the steps below. Use the steps to show how each person found 1/3 times 3/4. So what this is going to show us, boys and girls, is just a different way to solve the problem. So we're going to start with Margot. Margot shaded the model to show 3/4 of a whole. So let's count with her. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So for Margot, she showed 3/4 of a whole in orange. Actually, I'm going to erase this one. I'm going to write that in purple just to distinguish the two. Now we're going to go on to the next question. How many 1/4 pieces did she shade, or did we shade? We would say that we shaded exactly 3 1/4 pieces. Next, to find 1/3 of 3/4, so we're only saying of this orange section, circle 1/3 of the shaded pieces. So let's look at our pieces. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So if we circle that 1/3, boys and girls, we look and then we see our circled answer is our correct answer. The product is 1/3. So it says what part of the whole is 1/3? It is 1/4 of the whole. So 1/3 times 3/4 is equal to 1/4. And we can see that because we were able to circle that for this particular example. Again, remember, we shaded 3/4 and then we looked at it. What is 1/3 of the 3 that we shaded? Well, this would be 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. We're not concerned with 3/3. We're only circled with 1. So we circle this piece and we see that's one piece out of the 4 pieces that you have there, 1/4. Next, we're going to go on to James's method. Shade the model to show 3/4 of a whole. So what we're going to do is we are going to shade the model to show 3/4 of a whole. So we're going to start, and this time we're going to use green. Sorry, boys and girls, just to double check, this time we're going to use green to show 3/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So now it says divide each 1/4 piece into thirds. So when we look at each of these pieces, we're going to break it up into 3 pieces. So that's 1. Oh, that piece doesn't look the best. So that's 3 there. 3 there, 3 there. So each of these pieces that used to be the size of a 1/4 are broken down into thirds. So inside of 1/4, we really now have. So students, as you can see, we had 1/4 pieces, and each 1/4 we cut that into 3 pieces. So really we have 3, 6, 9, and 12. So I'm going to cut that last 1/4 into 3 pieces. So it says, what is the part of the whole that each small piece represents? Well, that would be 1/12, because there are 12 pieces here. it says to find 1/3 of 3/4. Circle 1/3 of each 3/4 pieces. So if we circle 1/3 of each 3/4 pieces, we circle 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. We circled 3/12 pieces. So our answer would be 3/12 or 1/4, because we know that 3/12 has a common factor of 3, which would give us 1/4. Finally, boys and girls, we're on the pose a problem. Make sure that you can pose a problem that can be solved using the equation above. So our equation above from the previous problem was 1/3 times 3/4. So the problem that I posed was there was 3/4 of a pizza left over. Riley ate 1/3 of what was left. How much of the entire pizza did Riley eat? So I encourage you to pose a problem with your families, maybe perhaps in your native language, or just one in English that you guys can share with each other.